Hey guys, welcome to Survival Dispatch. I'm after turkeys today. Been out for a couple hours now. Haven't heard any gobbles yet, so I'm going to start getting on the move a bit and see if I can get something to respond back to me. Still nothing. It's been a pretty quiet day in the woods. It's so exciting to hear the first gobble, and I really hope I get onto one today, but even if I don't, I enjoy just being out in the woods. But there's something about turkey hunting, man. It's by far my favorite kind of hunting. It's just something about it. It's very interactive. You call them, they call back. Their senses are more like ours than most other prey animals. Most other prey animals like deer, you've got to be really cautious of the wind and the scent. With turkeys, it's not like that. With turkeys, it's all about vision. And it's so exciting going after birds. And I love it. But a little disappointing when you don't hear a gobble, that it turns into kind of just sit and wait kind of game. And when the ground is wet like it is right now, the good news is that I can move quietly and stealthily. The bad news is so can the turkeys. You can't hear them coming. Even when the ground is dry, it's hard to hear them moving around sometimes. You can hear them scratching sometimes when they're with the hens. But just walking, it's tough to pick up on them sometimes, and you can't see them until they're right on you usually. So them gobbling back at you is a real advantage. And when they don't do that, your advantage goes away. Because they have the best camouflage, man. They're like ghosts. They disappear. Another thing I really like about turkey hunting is it requires you to be mobile and active. It's not just sitting in some deer stand, over a pile of corn waiting for the deer to come nibble on it. That's target practice, essentially. This is hunting. I mean, it requires you to use all your senses. It requires you to make quick reactions, quick decisions based on your instincts, which I love. Sometimes my instincts are wrong more than they're right. But I still really enjoy it because you hear that bird and you think, okay, you have to use your instincts to determine if that bird's moving this way or moving that way based on where it called the last time. You've got to use your instincts to know if I should move to get ahead of it, wait, see if it comes to me. Because sometimes they don't come to you. Sometimes they'll come a little ways, but they won't come far. And you've got to close that distance. Alright, I just heard my first bird right behind the camera. I'm going to stay pretty much right where I am. I'm going to move a little bit forward because I can't. There it was again. I'm going to move a little bit forward so I can have a better vantage point and I get a longer range shot. Let me get my camo up here. he over there? So I gave it a quick couple calls, but didn't respond to my call. It's been about a half an hour since I've heard him. Sometimes they'll come in silent and they won't make a sound. I tell you what, if there was ever a situation to be well practiced at shooting from your weak side, turkey hunting would be it, because a turkey may call from that direction, but he could flank you easily and be on this left side of you in no time, and I'm a lefty. And if he was over there, I would have to switch over to the right side unless I, wanted to move my entire body, which would give my position away. So being confident and capable of shooting on the left and the right is an important skill to have. Just called and I got a response. Sounds like it's coming from kind of over that direction there. I'm gonna move my way so I have a little bit of a clearing and I can see a little bit, and then I'm gonna get set up. So we were on a bird, real close. I would guess 50, 75 yards away. But then radio silence, nothing. And that's just the way it goes when you're turkey hunting, I guess. I'm not the most amazing turkey hunter in the world, but I get a little bit better, a little bit more experienced every year and every time that I go out. I think that's about it for me today. I've been chasing after these turkeys and got onto a couple, but couldn't close the distance. Sun's getting a little bit low and it's time to call it a day. Now let's say, for example, sun's getting low. I'm rambling through these hills wildly after these birds, and I just kind of lose track of where I am. I'm not necessarily lost. I'm just a little bit misplaced, and that's very, very easy to do. Get turned around and not quite kind of remember which way might be home. And where I live, in this area where I'm hunting right now, is a mixture of public and private lands. Getting lost is, I think, next to impossible. I can pretty much pick any direction. I can walk downhill that way. I can walk downhill this way. I can walk downhill that way, up over this ridge, and then downhill that way. It doesn't really matter. I can pick any direction I want, and I'm eventually going to run into a small little stream, a spring head, something like that. And if I follow that downhill, it's going to lead to a bigger stream, bigger creek, something like that. And if I keep following that downstream, I'm going to run into something, a house, a road, something, guaranteed. So getting lost is really, it's, I think, just not really going to happen in this area. Within a few miles of walking, I'm going to run into something easy. But to get misplaced, for sure, that can happen if the sun starts going down and I get a little bit sidetracked and get on a bird. I'm not going to give up on a bird just because it's starting to get dark. That's just not how I operate. I'll go until the last light if I have to. But if that should happen and that situation, I'm on a bird, the sun's going down, it's starting to get dark, and I'm a little bit misplaced at the same time, now we're kind of we're not lost, but we can't exactly get home when we plan on it. And it's not a big deal. It's no need to freak out. You don't have to panic. You can find your way out in the morning when the sun comes up. Walking it through the woods at night with a headlamp, if you're kind of misplaced, is not that good of an idea, because you can definitely get hurt. And then if you get hurt, you're talking about a whole nother situation. You're not talking about being lost. You're talking about being stuck, and that's totally different. All you really need to do is carry a couple pieces of kit in your pack here that can make your evening a lot more comfortable if you should have to spend the night out. I know for a fact that in the area that I'm in, if I walk east or south, it doesn't matter, east or south, I will run into the river. And if I hit the river and follow it downstream, that will take me to the cabin. So if you know your area, you can get yourself out of a sticky situation pretty easy. But I'm going to put myself in the situation as if that's not going to happen tonight. So I'm stuck out here. I'm not going to be able to make it home before dark. I'm confused. I don't know exactly where I'm at. I think I can get out tomorrow, but I don't want to be rambling on through the woods at night, and it's just not smart. So all I really need to do is make the decision that I'm going to spend the night, and I need to find myself a reasonably flat place to lay myself down. The last Survival Dispatch Insider talked all about kind of inclement weather and how to prepare and plan ahead. And one of the things that's mentioned in it is that just being able to predict foul weather. And I look up at the sky today, and it is a little bit breezy, but it is perfectly beautiful and clear, and not a single cloud in the sky. And there is zero evidence of any weather coming in. So making a solid shelter is probably not going to be high on my priority list, but it is going to be cold tonight. It's going to be in like the 30s, 38 I think is the low, and up here on top of this mountain is probably going to be even colder. So I'm going to want to have a fire. I have some extra clothing with me because I planned ahead, and I like to be prepared just in case I do have to spend the night out, but I don't have a sleeping bag. I don't have the gear that I would want if I wanted to have a comfortable night out in 30-degree weather. So having a fire is going to be a big deal for me, and you want to have enough firewood to last you through the night. Otherwise, you're going to have a pretty miserable evening. And gathering that early enough to where you don't have to be collecting sticks in the dark is a really, really good idea. And if you can make that decision that you're going to spend the night out before it gets too dark, you want at least an hour, I would say, before it gets dark. Make that decision that you're going to be spending the night out, and that will give you enough time to set up your camp and get yourself situated where you can have a reasonably comfortable evening. Finding a flat spot to lay down for evening around here is not always the easiest thing to do. This is reasonably flat right here, but the problem with this is I am up on top of a ridge here, up on top of kind of a knoll. This is the highest point. Everything around me is downhill, which is good for in the morning when I want to head out of here. I can pretty much just go any direction downhill and find my way home. But it's very breezy up here, and I know that it's going to be chilly. So I want to get, and I don't want to be down in the valley in the bottom, because cold air is going to settle down there tonight, and I'm going to freeze my butt off there. So I want something kind of in the middle would be ideal, and that is even more difficult to find, but it is possible. For example, there's a small spot right here that is pretty flat, and that's enough room for me to lay myself down tonight and have a relatively comfortable place to rest. And again, you don't have to be comfortable. I think people are too comfortable. We don't have to be, staying in the Ritz-Carlton. We just need to not die, and that's pretty much all I'm after this evening is to not freeze to death, and then get home tomorrow. I've told my wife that I'm going to be spending the night out, obviously, but even if I wasn't, I always tell her, don't freak out if I don't come home tonight. Don't call 911. Don't panic. I just, didn't make it back in time. No big deal. Now, if I'm not back by the following evening, 48 hours later, then I'd appreciate you come looking for me. But it's always good to make sure you tell people where you're going. That's number one. I told her before I left, I said, I'm going to be hunting in this area. I showed her where it's going to be. She knows the area. And then that way, if I should be misplaced for more than more than the allotted amount of time, people can come find me easily. That should work. Now, I've got my spot cleared out, all of the little sticks and stuff that might be stabbing me through the night. I'm gonna pile up some leaves, pine straw, whatnot, to put my my poncho on top of that, so I'll have a little bit of soft bedding, a little bit of insulation off of the ground. Now, as I'm out and about collecting things for my camp, my firewood and bedding and whatnot, it's important to keep track of where your actual campsite is, especially if you're going to put any of your gear down, like my pack and my shotgun over there. I've laid it down and it's all camo-y and blending in like I want it to be when I'm hunting, but it's not really a good thing when you're lost in the woods. Something to include in your pack that would be a really, really good idea is some really bright orange tape or a signal flag, something like that, that I could tie to that tree right there above where my pack is so I can easily see it if I'm out and about. I have plenty of stuff right here within 50 feet of my little camp spot. Plenty of firewood, plenty of materials where I don't really need to roam very far, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I'll definitely make a note of that and add that to my kit for the next outing. So all I've really done is just put myself down a little bit of bedding. Not a lot, probably could do more, but I'll live. And laid my poncho down on top of it. And that's what I'm gonna lay on as kind of a moisture barrier. And if I should need to, I could wrap myself up in it just to keep the dew off of me or something like that, or if it should happen to rain. But I do have rain gear that I'm gonna be sleeping in because I'm gonna need that extra layer. So now we just need to gather a whole heap of firewood. Now, it is still pretty early in the day, and if this was a real situation, I would not, you know, make the decision to set up camp so early. I would make an effort to get my way out of here before it got dark. But I wanted to make sure that I have plenty of light so I can film what I'm doing here, and you guys can see it. Filming at night is kind of a pain in the neck. Starting to sweat a little bit. I don't want to be soaking wet with sweat when the sun starts going down. That's not a good idea. The best fuel for my fire is going to be dead standing stuff. Hardwoods are going to burn a lot longer than the pines. These dead white pines here are great for getting a fire started, but man, they just burn up in seconds. But this is a nice hardwood. I think this is a maple here. I'm gonna cut this one down because it looks extremely dead. So I bent my saw while cutting the wood. No big deal. You could take a pair of pliers and straighten it back out. But the easiest thing to do is just stick it in the cut that bent it in the first place, and use that as a leverage point there to straighten it back out. Piece of cake. Probably enough fuel, big fuel, to get me through the night. However, from past experience, I know that I need a pile of mediums there that are about the size of me if I want to be able to make this thing go through the night. You need kind of a mixture of bigs and mediums to keep the fire going. What I look for most of the time when it comes to kindling, I look for a white pine tree, at least in this area. This is an eastern hemlock, and it works really, really good too. See these tiny little dry twigs? Those work really, really well. So that's about what I need to get the fire started. That should be plenty. And then I'll gather one more for my emergency stash. All right, camp is pretty much made up. I've got my bed, my sleeping pad there, a poncho with some leaf litter underneath it, large firewood, kindling to get it going, and some medium-sized fuel to keep her going all night. And I think that's enough to see me through. You can't have a gigantic, huge monstrosity of a fire with this amount of wood, but you can have a good warming size fire, something about the size of that kindling right there, maybe a little bit bigger. Just keep that going about that size, and that'll keep me warm throughout the night. This is some of the tulip poplar that I pulled off of that down tree I saw earlier this morning when I was hunting. Whenever I see a good source of tinder, I always kind of grab it and stick it in my pocket. It was wet this morning, and I put it in my cargo pocket, and I've been just walking around with it all day, and my body heat and has pretty much dried it out, and I think it will go. This is perfect tinder. It's at the perfect stage, this white color here, this blonde looking color. Just rubbing it against itself and against my hands, tearing it apart, making it as fuzzy and fluffy as I can. Setting this whole camp up took me gathering all the firewood, getting a little bit of bedding, laying my poncho down, hanging up my pack, whatever, all of this to where the point I am right now. Less than an hour, which is not that bad. So you want to give yourself about an hour before complete darkness sets in. Otherwise, you're going to run out of time. You're not going to be able to gather enough firewood, and then you're going to freeze your butt off. And whenever, as just a general rule, whenever you think you've got enough firewood, gather a lot more, because it's always better to have too much, you know, and have a little left over in the morning than it is to run out in the middle of the night and then have to put the headlamp on and search for some small twigs laying around to keep it going, which is never a good idea. It's got a little bit of dampness in it, but I think it'll still go. Now with a Bic lighter, you can skip this step. You don't need it. This just makes it easier to get the fire going. But if you've got a Bic lighter, you can just hold it, and you use less fuel on your lighter when you have tinder. But you can just hold your flame underneath small dry twigs like that and get it going, no problem, as long as you start with really, really small dry ones. But if you have some tinder like this and easy access to it, might as well use it, save the fuel in your lighter. Or in this case, I'm just going to use my ferro rod, so I don't have to use any of the fuel in my lighter. And now all of this stuff here that I've collected on my jacket, that's perfect. So I'm going to make a bird's nest here. This really, really fine fuzzy stuff here. I'll collect that and I'll put it in the middle of my bird's nest right there. And that is what I want to throw my sparks onto, because that's going to catch really, really easy. So even with a little bit damp tinder, with good preparation, you break it down really, really fine, it'll go with just a little bit of spark. So I'm gonna gather a little bit more firewood, and then I'm gonna show you what I keep in my kit here. My small little, my hunting pack basically is my bushcraft, outdoorsy adventure kit, whatever you want to call it. It's not a bug out bag, anything like that, but it is the pack that I do carry with me whenever I'm out in the woods. So this is my hunting pack that I took with me today, heading out after the birds. And strapped to the outside is just some rain gear, just some basic rain gear, pants and jacket. It looked like there was a chance of rain this morning, but didn't actually come down on us, so I didn't need it. But tomorrow I think there's rain in the forecast, so it's a good idea that I've got this. And then tonight, it's just an extra layer that might help keep me warm. So just some waterproof outer layers right there that I had strapped to the outside. And in these outside pockets, the only thing that I keep in this one is just a tourniquet. I think this is a rat tourniquet. I might be wrong on that. I'm no expert on tourniquets, but it's one that works on my kids as well, on my tiny little scrawny arms and stuff. So I keep that in here just in case. You never know, because if you need a tourniquet, you need a tourniquet. And there's really nothing else that can solve that problem. So I've got that in there. In my left pocket here, left side pocket, I've just got 3 extra shotgun shells. I only anticipate ever needing one, just one, but you never know, and it's good to have a few extras in there. I've got 3 in my shotgun right now, and then these 3 here, and it should that should suffice for anything I might encounter. Now, I really like this pack. This is called a Tarahumara Pack by Hill People Gear. Hill People Gear Tarahumara Pack, and it's very simple. It's just basically one big pocket, which I like, and it's very, very sturdy, very, very durable. It's got great straps and shoulder straps on it. Really, really comfortable to carry with you all day. It's a small pack, but you can strap all kinds of crap to the outside of it and carry quite a bit of weight, and very comfortably with these big wide straps. And then in this back sleeve right here, I kept my poncho, which I'm sitting on right now. But in the main compartment, I've got all of my camera gear. I don't think you guys really care that much about that, but it's an extra light, extra batteries for a GoPro, a solar charger right here that I can hook everything up to and charge up my batteries for my GoPro if they should not last for the entire adventure. Who knows, I might have to recharge here in a little bit, but that's the extent of my camera gear, the tripod and the GoPro that I'm talking to right now. Chest harness, chest rig for the GoPro. And then in here I have all of my spare layers, emergency layers if I should need them. I've got top and bottom merino wool long johns. Go ahead and open it up, I guess. I've got a spare pair of socks, dry socks, because if you've ever worn rubber boots all day hiking in them, your socks are going to be damp from just perspiration. So it's always nice, really, really, just a great feeling to be able to have a dry, warm pair of socks to put on at the end of the day if you're laying down to go to sleep. And these are Darn Tough socks out of Vermont, and they're really good socks. Alan Kay turned me on to these. And they are actually really, really good socks. I wore these for 30 days straight. And they serve their purpose really well. This is a shemagh, or just a really, really big piece of cotton that I can use as a pillow. I can use it as a bandage if I need it. I can strain or pre-filter some water. I can, I mean, you could do whatever. I'm going to cover up probably with this night for one more layer. I've got a wool cap because sleeping with a wool cap on is, to me, it's a deal breaker if you don't have something to put on your head. I think that this is one of the most important layers that you can put on your body, is a nice wool cap. Small, thin pair of gloves, and then merino wool tops and bottoms that I can put on before I go to bed, before I bed down for the evening, and it will help keep me a little bit warmer. And that's kept in a small dry bag inside the pack, so if it should get wet, the clothes in there will always stay dry. I've got my Grail water filter, water purifier / bottle. It's full of water right now, which is convenient. It doesn't have to be because there's literally water everywhere, but this thing is fantastic. I can collect water easily in any little branch or creek around here and filter it and have clean water in just a few minutes. So it's a nice thing to have. And then in this small tin here, this small metal pot, I've got kind of all the meat and potatoes of the gear here, all of the little tidbits that kind of float around and would get lost if you didn't have them organized. I've got my ferro rod, which I used earlier to start the fire. I've got a headlamp with rechargeable batteries in it. I've got a compass. I know because I know where I'm at. I don't need a compass most of the time, and to be honest with you, I don't always carry one. I know I should, but I don't always carry one. But I know without even looking at this thing that north is behind me. And checking the compass, yep, north is behind me, and that is south. So I have a good idea of where I'm at, but if I didn't, this would help me get home. And like I was talking about earlier, I know because I'm familiar with the area and I've seen maps of the area. I know that if I go east or south, any southeastern direction, I will run into the river. And if I run into the river, I go downstream and it takes me to the cabin, it takes me home basically. So it's a no-brainer, and this would verify that I was going south or southeast if I needed it. I've got a knife sharpener if I need to touch up my knife for any particular reason. This is actually my favorite knife sharpener. This is a Fallkniven Quality Knives Sweden. It's an older one. It's a diamond on one side and ceramic on the other. And this is what I've used for a long time. It's just about worn out, and I probably need to replace it, but it still works. Still touches up the edge unless it's really, really dull. But this is my favorite knife sharpener. A little bit of duct tape. You never know, patching up clothes, get tears and rips and stuff. This poncho actually that has a piece of this tape on it right now because it has a small hole in it. I've got a lighter. Can never go wrong with a Bic lighter. Those things always work. I've got a bit of paracord and another piece of paracord in addition to the one that I used to tie the pack around the tree earlier. And then I've got 4 20-foot pieces of bank line. I like bank line because it's pretty strong, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. It takes up a lot less room than paracord does. So I've got 20, 40, 60, 80 feet of line right here that could be used for all sorts of things. If I was going to set up a shelter, kind of a lean-to tent type shelter with my poncho, this is what I would use to set it up. I'm not tonight because there's just no reason to. And then I've got some rations. I've got 2 little beef sticks, paleo bar, just a granola bar basically, and then a small coffee my buddy Jason hooked me up with. And then of course I've got this metal container that I can boil water in to purify it if I should need to. Not that I need to because I've got the Grail water filter, but I could boil it in there. I can make a hot drink if I should happen to get cold. Drinking a hot beverage when your body starts to chill is a pretty awesome feeling. You can just feel it warming you throughout, and it's really, really helpful in cold situations. So this is a great deal. And something I thought about earlier that I didn't include in my kit is a signaling device. I don't have really anything. I think I mentioned it earlier about maybe tying some orange ribbon around the tree, or you know, some sort of flagging device where I could signal if I was to get injured and need to actually someone to help me. That's not this situation, but if it was, I would need someone to be able to find me easily. And I don't really have anything high visibility. I'm all camoed up with an exception of maybe this right here. This could possibly work. I didn't think about this. I could tie it up around the tree, hang it from a branch nearby and blows in the wind, and someone could probably easily see this from a long ways away. So that could work. Just a way to improvise something like that. But what I could do with this, I don't carry a rape whistle with me all the time, so I could do something here. This is a loud thing. If I took, I don't know, any stick. I took any stick, and I wanted someone, say I was injured, weak, tired, dehydrated, whatever it is, and I couldn't really muster enough energy to scream. That's loud, and that sound carries a long ways. So just banging on a metal pot like that could be an easy way to signal somebody for help. Now, on my person, I wear merino wool base layers. This is a merino wool t-shirt and a merino wool long sleeve t-shirt, and then I'm wearing merino wool underwear underneath my pants. I think that's I'm sold on merino wool. I think I'll never go back. Especially for the base layer. I'm wearing merino wool socks underneath my boots, which I need to take off here in a little bit and dry my feet out. But on my person, I've got basically just my turkey call. I need to learn how to use one of the mouth calls so I don't have to move my hands so much to call, but I just haven't done that yet, just out of laziness for the most part. So, but I use a glass call and then a box call, but all I have with me today is this one. I've got my knife, a handmade knife, about a 5-inch blade, 5-inch handle, a custom-made knife, my design. Owls are hooting. Thought it was a turkey at first. But this knife is fantastic. I really like it. It's got a convex edge, which is my favorite grind. A lot of people, a lot of bushcrafters don't like that edge for some reason. They don't prefer it. Everybody thinks that a Scandinavian grind is the only thing that exists in the bushcraft world. But I've gotten comfortable with, and I've always kind of used a convex, and I really like it because it's a durable edge. It's essentially the same grind that you'd put on an axe. It's just tapered, gradually tapered, kind of more of a rounded shape. And it's a very durable edge. I find that I don't have to sharpen it quite as often. Is it as sharp and as good for fine, delicate work as a Scandinavian edge or a different kind of grind? No, maybe not, but I don't have to sharpen it very much, and I don't like maintenance. Maintenance is not my thing, so I'd rather have something that stays sharp a long time, and, you know, instead of one cut through, it might take me two, but it still gets the job done. It's as big and heavy enough, 3/16 of an inch blade, and I can really chop through some stuff with this. I could chop through small saplings, and it's just a good sturdy bush knife. I carry it horizontal in a sheath like this with a tech lock, so it's easy on and off. Real easy on and off. Carries horizontal, so even a large knife like this, I can carry it comfortably. I can bend over, I can sit down in a truck seat, and it doesn't stab me in the side or stab a hole in the seat or anything like that. It's very comfortable to wear all day long horizontally like that. Easy on and off, that's the big thing. That's why I like that tech lock, because you can just slip it underneath your belt, and there we go. And that's pretty much all I have on my person. I don't carry a sidearm when I'm hunting for the most part, because I have a rifle, I have a shotgun, and I don't feel the need to really carry two firearms with me at all times. I do typically carry a sidearm with me when I'm not hunting, when I'm just doing me, you know, going around town and whatnot and around the homestead. But if I'm hunting, I've got a shotgun, I've got a rifle, and I don't feel the need to have a sidearm with me, so that's why I don't have one. Some of you may frown upon that, but I don't care. Let's talk about my shotgun. If I could only have one firearm, if I was given the choice, said, hey, you know, Jason, you got to get a gun, you got to buy one, keep one forever, you can never have another, which gun would you pick? And it would be, I think without question, I'd pick this Mossberg 500. It's basically a turkey gun. It's all camoed out. It's got a 24-inch barrel with removable adjustable chokes here. Not adjustable chokes, but interchangeable chokes. That's the word. I've got a turkey choke on it obviously now. But a 24-inch barrel is kind of that happy medium between everything. You know, it's not that 18.5, 20-inch home defense barrel. It's not the 28, 30-inch duck gun, you know. But it's right in the middle, and it would work for all of those purposes, and that's why I like it. Very robust, very simple, good, solid, proven design, Mossberg 500. Chambered for 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells. You could argue that, you know, it'd be nice to have 3.5-inch magnums from time to time, but really, what for? I mean, 3.5s. So what do you need that for? I could 3-inch magnums are plenty powerful enough to reach out there. I'd feel comfortable shooting a turkey at 30, 40 yards, no problem with the ammo that I've got in this right now. But yeah, just a really, really sturdy, very simple shotgun. If I could only pick one, this is it, because I could barely kill a chipmunk with 8-shot at, you know, 20 yards with an open choke, just wound it. And I could kill a polar bear with a rifled slug out of this thing. I like the Mossberg over, say, a Remington 870, is it's got a thumb safety, and I think that's the ideal place to put a safety as opposed to on the trigger guard. I'm a lefty. That means I have to move my forehand here to operate the safety. You can't just push it with your trigger finger like you would if you were right-handed. On this side here, piece of cake, you just push it to disengage the safety. Can't do that if you're a lefty, unfortunately. So that's another option. Another reason why I like that thumb safety a lot. A little bit more ambidextrous. So I don't always carry my phone into the woods. Sometimes it just feels wrong to carry a bunch of technology into the woods, but it's not a bad idea, especially if you're in an area that is relatively unknown to you. You can have an app such as this one right here, this GAIA GPS. GAIA GPS. And it just tells you exactly where you are. It's fantastic. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's where I am, that little golden arrow. And then that point right there is the cabin. I know that for a fact that I can walk straight to that thing using this GPS. You don't need to have any cell phone service, nothing like that, which I have absolutely none right now. So if I did find myself a little bit lost, a little bit misplaced, I could easily get my way out of here using this app. And that's, you know, a piece of cake. I'm at 2,500 feet of elevation. The current wind speed is 1 mile per hour. And it's great. I can put waypoints in it, everything just like a normal GPS. So very, very handy thing to have. And this is what I'm talking about, feeding the fire without having to cut any of your big, large pieces of firewood. I'm going to let this burn up right here. When this is all burned in half pretty much, I'll just grab that big piece and pull it that way and let it burn again until that whole log is gone. I usually burn 2 of them at a time so they can kind of feed off one another. And when those 2 logs are gone, I'll grab another one and feed it in. And that firewood right there will last all night long. I think spring is my favorite time of year. The days are warm, the nights are cool, the fire still feels good in the evenings. Everything's starting to pop green. Birds are out, everything seems busy. And it's turkey season, which is the most magical time of year. And there's my orange marker. Red, whatever you want to call it. Super easy to see. I can see the smoke from my fire. I know where my camp is. I'm not lost yet again. The sun's just about gone down over the top of the ridge over there. It's time to start putting on some layers. It's cooling off already. I can feel it. Even after hiking up the hill to get some water, I feel the temperature dropping. So I'm gonna start putting on some extra layers and get cozy. I tell you, man, you gotta, when you're out for multiple days in the woods, being active, being hiking, your feet get wet, that kind of stuff, you gotta take care of your feet. I knew a guy one time, we were out for a few days in a very wet environment. He didn't take his boots off for the first like 3 days basically, and he finally took them off, and his feet were white, and the creases on his feet from being so wrinkly and wet were the deepest I've ever seen. I mean, he was that skin was going to just fall off. He was on the verge of trench foot. It was bad. So every chance you get, every evening at least, take off your shoes, take off your boots, dry out your socks, put fresh socks on if you can, if you have that option. But definitely get your feet dry, completely dry, at least once a day. Smoke from the fire is fantastic. Kills bacteria, fungus that might be growing between your toes, like athlete's foot, that kind of stuff. So smoke your feet. I did that every day. Every night I'd take my boots off, take my socks off, dry everything out, put my feet in the smoke, get my feet completely dry every single night, then put my socks back on, just so the mosquitoes wouldn't eat my feet. And to keep my feet warm when the nights got cold. But very important to take care of your feet. If your feet go out, you get trench foot, something like that, infections in your feet, you're done. You can't, if your feet don't work, you can't move, you're not mobile, and you're in a lot of trouble. Owls are out. Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo. I think that's the call of a barred owl. I could be mistaken. I get them mixed up. So I don't think I'm gonna regret not putting up my poncho as a proper shelter. Stars are coming out. It's looking pretty nice. This last edition of the Survival Dispatch Insider was all about, inclement weather and severe weather and things to look out for and what to look out for. And one of those things is, clouds. You can look at, I think they were called stratus clouds. I think that's what Charlie Hogwood told me in this last video, is that you'll see those bands of thin, wispy kind of clouds kind of coming in, and that might be a precursor to some weather, and this sky is just beautiful and blue today. None of that going on, so I think I'm going to be safe. I think I'm going to be clear for the evening. No rain, that is. But if you haven't checked out the Survival Dispatch Insider, make sure you do it. It's full of all kinds of really, really useful information, and I learn stuff from it all the time. I'm a fairly experienced outdoorsman. I get out and about from time to time on a regular basis, and I've been doing it my entire life, but I'm still learning lots from these articles that I'm reading from the Insider, and you should definitely check it out and you won't regret it. Well, we didn't bag a bird today. That's a little bit unfortunate, but still a good experience out here. I'm gonna call it a night, and then I'll see you in the morning. Getting cold. I can see my breath. So that's what I'm talking about. Fall asleep, wake up, fire's about out. Now we gotta stoke it up. Well, good morning. We didn't die. I just checked my phone. It's about 7 o'clock. Sun's starting to come up. Right there. That way, right there is east. Sunrise is in the east. Well, roughly southeast, but so I know if I head in that direction, I'll get myself out of here and I'll run into the creek, head downstream, run into cabin. So now I'm gonna make myself a hot cup of coffee and then start walking out. Unless, of course, I hear a turkey on the way out, then all bets are off. The sky was pretty clear this morning, but it's starting to cloud up. Looks like there's some weather coming in. The sky was red over by the where the sun was rising in the east, and reminds me of that saying, you know, the red sky at night, sailor's delight, red in the morning, sailor's warning. And I think that might be the case today. It looks like it might be getting rained on here. You think anybody's ever killed a turkey while drinking a cup of coffee next to a fire? I don't think that's ever happened. I appreciate you joining me for the video. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up, and if I happen to get on a bird on my way out of here, I'll make sure I get it on tape.